Well, 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 look at that. You didn't overthrow a government. You didn't summon lightning. You didn't scream into the sky or beg the universe for mercy. You just did one little thing right. One decision, one adjustment, one move that actually landed. And somehow that was enough to make the room feel colder. Enough to make people start whispering like you cracked a forbidden seal. Funny how that works. They watched you struggle for years and felt nothing. They watched you doubt yourself and felt comfortable. They watched you bleed quietly and called it character development. But the second something works, the second reality tilts even a fraction in your favor, they start acting like you opened a back door to hell and let something intelligent crawl out. That's the part they don't want to admit. It wasn't the scale of what you did. It was the accuracy. You didn't flail. You didn't get lucky in a sloppy way they could dismiss. You didn't trip into success the way they're used to seeing. You moved with intent. And intent scares people who survive by accident. You aligned one thing, just one. And suddenly the air changed. Suddenly the jokes stopped landing. Suddenly your name started traveling without you. You could feel it, couldn't you? That quiet recalibration, like the world paused for half a second, and everyone realized something had shifted, but no one wanted to say it out loud. Because if they say it out loud, they have to explain it. And explanation is where the panic starts. You see, people can tolerate failure. They can tolerate chaos. They can tolerate broken dreams and half-finished potential because it reassures them that the universe is messy and unfair in a way that excuses their own stagnation. But competence, precision, a clean result born from pressure, that breaks the story. That introduces an uncomfortable variable. If you can do that after everything they saw you go through, then maybe the rules they've been hiding behind aren't real. Maybe the ceiling isn't fixed. Maybe the cage was optional. And that thought spreads fast. Too fast. Faster than logic. Faster than reason. It spreads like fear. So they don't call it skill. They don't call it growth. They don't call it discipline or patience or accumulated pain finally finding leverage. No, they reach for something darker, something easier, something that lets them keep their worldview intact. They say you must have cheated reality. They say you changed too fast. They say something's off. They say no one does that without help. And help, in their vocabulary, doesn't mean mentors or effort or time. It means deals. It means shortcuts. It means shadows. It means the devil. And notice how fast they go there. How comfortable they are turning your progress into a conspiracy. As if you couldn't possibly evolve without violating some cosmic contract. As if your mind couldn't sharpen itself unless something unholy was involved. That tells you everything you need to know about how small they've kept their own expectations. Because when someone has never gone all in on themselves, anyone who does looks possessed. You didn't become impressive. You became inconvenient. That's the real trigger. Your success didn't inspire them. It destabilized them. It made old conversations feel fake. Old hierarchies feel fragile. Old jokes feel dangerous. Because you weren't supposed to be the one who figured it out. You were supposed to stay in your lane. Stay experimental. Stay almost there. Stay harmless. You were the safe comparison. The person they could point to and say, see, trying hard doesn't always work. And then you did one thing right. And the whole comparison collapsed. Now they have to rewrite history to survive the present. So they start tracking you differently. They watch your timing, your posture, your tone. They read into pauses that mean nothing. They screenshot progress like it's evidence. They look for signs, patterns, symbols, anything that suggests your rise isn't legitimate. Because if it is legitimate, then their inaction becomes a choice instead of a circumstance, and that's unbearable. So they don't say you worked, they say you changed, and they don't mean it as growth, they mean it as corruption, like something touched you, like you crossed a line you weren't supposed to cross. Here's the truth they won't face. You didn't cross a line. You stopped respecting one that never applied to you. You learned something they never did. That pain isn't just something to survive, it's something to study. While they were numbing, you were observing. While they were performing resilience, you were reverse engineering your own collapse. You paid attention to what broke you. You mapped it. You figured out where you leaked energy, where you hesitated, where you waited for permission that never came. And when you finally acted, it wasn't chaotic. It was surgical. That's why it looked unreal. That's why it didn't match their expectations. Because they mistake noise for effort and confuse struggle with virtue. You didn't get louder, you got clearer. And clarity terrifies people who rely on confusion to stay comfortable. So now the rumors start. Quiet at first. Half jokes, side comments. That look they give each other when your name comes up. You feel it. The sudden shift from amusement to assessment. They're no longer asking if you'll fail. They're asking how far this goes, and worse, whether it affects them, because deep down they sense it. Your win wasn't isolated. It was a proof of concept, a demonstration, a live example of what happens when someone stops leaking their power into doubt and starts applying it with intent. That's why it feels like a panic button got pressed. Not because you're taking something from them, but because you're showing what's possible. And possibility is radioactive to people who have already decided they're done evolving. They don't hate you because you succeeded. They hate you because you succeeded without their permission, without their blessing, without fitting the narrative they agreed on when they decided who you were. You violated the agreement, the unspoken one, the one where you stay predictable and they stay superior. So now they mythologize you. They turn your discipline into obsession, your focus into darkness, your boundaries into arrogance, your silence into threat. They talk about your energy like it's a hazard, like being around you requires protection. And the wild part is, they half believe it. Because it's easier to imagine you made a deal with something external than accept that you finally made a deal with yourself. The kind that doesn't expire, the kind that doesn't ask for applause. You didn't summon anything. You remembered. You remembered what you were like before you learned to shrink, before you learned to explain yourself, before you learned to soften your instincts so other people wouldn't feel exposed by them. You remembered the version of you that didn't negotiate with fear. And when you let that version steer, even briefly, reality responded, not magically, mechanically, because cause and effect doesn't care about comfort. That's what they can't stand, that your result has a logic they can't refute without indicting themselves. So they escalate the narrative. It's not just luck anymore. It's not just timing. It's something darker, something unnatural. Because unnatural means unrepeatable. And if it's unrepeatable, they don't have to try. They can sit back and say, well, not everyone gets chosen. Not everyone gets that kind of favor. They can turn your work into mythology and their fear into theology. Meanwhile, you're just standing there, watching the ripples spread, realizing how fragile their confidence actually was. You thought you were invisible. Turns out you were a variable, one that hadn't been activated yet. And the moment you were, the system started glitching. People who never checked on you suddenly check your progress. People who never listened suddenly quote you. People who never believed suddenly speculate. And none of it feels flattering. It feels clinical, like you're being observed instead of celebrated, like something about you moved from background noise to anomaly status overnight. You didn't ask for it, you didn't chase it, you just aligned one thing correctly and exposed how misaligned everything else was. That's why the devil story sticks. Devils are convenient. Devils explain disruption without demanding accountability. Devils let people feel moral instead of inadequate. And in their minds, it makes sense. Because what else could explain how someone they dismissed just rewrote the trajectory? What else could explain how someone who used to struggle quietly now moves with a certainty that unsettles rooms? They don't see the years. They see the result and panic. They don't see the nights you disassembled yourself piece by piece, trying to figure out why nothing worked. They don't see the restraint it took not to burn bridges you could have destroyed out of spite. They don't see the discipline of staying quiet while being misunderstood. They just see the moment the switch flipped and assume something supernatural happened, as if the human mind isn't capable of terrifying levels of recalibration under pressure. Here's the irony. If you had failed loudly, they would have praised your courage. If you had stayed broken, they would have called you authentic. But you succeeded cleanly. And clean success after prolonged struggle is the one thing they can't metabolize. It doesn't fit the inspirational posters or the cautionary tales. It just sits there, undeniable, forcing questions no one wants to ask. Like, what if the limits were always optional? Like, what if suffering wasn't the end of the story? Like, what if you weren't special, just unwilling to stay asleep? Those questions feel dangerous, so they drown them in superstition. They whisper about deals and darkness and energy shifts, not realizing what they're really reacting to is control. You took it back, quietly, efficiently, and now you move differently, not desperate, not performative, not hungry for approval. You move like someone who knows something and doesn't feel the need to explain it. And that, more than any success, sets off alarms. Because people can compete with skill. They can envy talent. They can even tolerate wealth. What they can't tolerate is autonomy they don't understand. Someone who isn't reacting to the same incentives. Someone who doesn't flinch when the usual levers get pulled. Someone who no longer responds to shame, doubt, or ridicule the way they're supposed to. That's when the devil narrative turns from joke to coping mechanism. They need to believe you paid a price they wouldn't pay, that you sacrificed something essential, your soul, your humanity, your morality, because if the alternative is that you simply stopped betraying yourself, then the question becomes unavoidable. Why didn't they? And that question is loud, louder than any rumor, louder than any accusation. It follows them home. It sits with them in silence. It shows up when they scroll and see you still moving forward, still compounding, still unfazed. They start wondering if the panic they feel isn't about you at all, but about the part of themselves they abandoned years ago. That's when the narrative mutates. It stops being curiosity and turns into containment. Because curiosity can be survived. Containment is about safety, their safety. Your existence has become a destabilizing variable, and destabilizing variables must be explained, framed, neutralized. So the story tightens, it sharpens, it evolves from whispers into certainty. They stop saying maybe and start saying definitely. Definitely a deal. Definitely something dark. Definitely a not normal. Because normal people don't recalibrate reality like that. Normal people don't flip trajectories with one clean move. Normal people don't break patterns that were supposed to be permanent. But here's the part that really unsettles them. You didn't just win. You didn't just succeed. You didn't just move ahead. You invalidated assumptions. And assumptions are the foundation they've been standing on. Assumptions about talent, about timing, about who gets to rise and who stays in place, about who deserves momentum and who exists to serve as a cautionary tale. You weren't supposed to be the proof that effort plus clarity beats hierarchy. You weren't supposed to be the one who made the formula obvious, so they do what people always do when faced with evidence that threatens their identity. They mythologize it. They turn your progress into folklore. They inflate it until it no longer feels reachable. They exaggerate the speed, the scale, the impact. They act like what you did was impossible instead of improbable. And in doing so, they give themselves permission to stop trying. Because no one expects themselves to compete with the impossible. But they do expect themselves to compete with someone who simply stopped sabotaging themselves. And that's the truth they're running from. You can feel the shift in how they talk to you now. It's subtle, but unmistakable. Less casual, more careful. The jokes have an edge. The compliments feel defensive. The questions aren't really questions. They're probes, fishing for inconsistencies, looking for cracks, trying to find evidence that this version of you is unsustainable, that something is going to snap. Because if it doesn't, then this isn't a phase. It's a new baseline. And baselines are terrifying. Baselines mean permanence. That's why the devil imagery keeps surfacing. Devils don't just tempt. They demand repayment. Devils always collect. Devils imply a clock is ticking, and they need that clock. They need to believe this version of you has an expiration date, that there will be a cost, a collapse, a reckoning, something that restores the balance they were comfortable with. Because if there isn't, then the imbalance was never natural. It was just enforced by fear. And fear, once exposed, doesn't hold power the same way. What they don't understand is that the price was already paid. Long before anyone noticed. You paid it in isolation, in restraint, in swallowing reactions that would have felt justified but led nowhere. You paid it in nights where nothing moved except your thoughts, in days where effort felt invisible, in moments where quitting would have made sense and no one would have blamed you. You paid the price in advance. That's why the result looks unfair to people who only count costs at the finish line. From the outside, it looks like acceleration. From the inside, it feels like delayed ignition. That's what flips the switch from suspicion to panic. They realize, slowly, that this isn't fragile, that you're not holding your breath, that you're not waiting for approval or validation or the other shoe to drop. You're not asking if it's okay to take up space now. You're not explaining yourself. You're not negotiating. And that tells them something far worse than success ever could. It tells them you're no longer operating on their emotional economy. You're not trading in reassurance. You're not spending energy to be understood. You're not paying attention to the signals they use to control you. And that's when the panic goes global. Not literal global, of course. Not sirens and headlines, but internal, social, psychological. It spreads through conversations, through group chats, through sideways comments and shared glances, through people comparing notes without admitting they're comparing notes. They start noticing patterns, noticing that wherever you go, the atmosphere tightens, that rooms feel different after you leave, that people bring you up unprompted, that your name carries weight now, even when spoken casually. Weight is dangerous. Weight bends structures. So they start asking each other the same question in different ways. How did this happen? When did this happen? And more importantly, could it happen again? Could someone else do what you did? Because if the answer is yes, then the whole hierarchy is unstable. And hierarchies exist to protect people from having to test themselves. They exist to tell people where they belong without effort. You didn't just climb, you shook the ladder. That's why they don't talk about your work. They talk about your change. Change implies loss. Change implies corruption. Change implies that something was taken from you in exchange for power. Because power earned through discipline is threatening. Power earned through sacrifice is unsettling. But power earned through deals, that can be dismissed, that can be moralized, that can be condemned without reflection. So they condemn it. They say you're too intense now, too focused, too cold, too confident. They say you're not like you used to be, as if that's an accusation instead of a diagnosis, as if the old version of you wasn't bleeding internally to make them comfortable, as if staying the same would have been a virtue. They mourn the version of you that made them feel safe, the version that asked permission, the version that explained themselves, the version that stayed small enough to be predictable. They call this version unnatural, because nature terrifies people who've been living inside routines. And here's where it gets interesting, because the more they talk, the more they reveal. Every accusation is a confession. When they say you're possessed, what they mean is you're no longer pliable. When they say you're dark, what they mean is you're no longer transparent. When they say you made a deal, what they mean is you stopped accepting bad ones. You didn't summon anything external. You cut internal ties. That's what they can't articulate. That's what makes their language sloppy and dramatic. They're trying to describe the absence of something they relied on. Your doubt, your hesitation, your need to be liked. Those were levers. Those were access points. Those were ways to influence you without appearing to. And now those access points are gone, closed, sealed, and any closed system looks suspicious to people who were used to walking in and out freely. So they imagine locks, they imagine gates, they imagine guards, they imagine devils. Because devils guard power in stories. Devils explain why not everyone gets access. Devils make power feel exclusive instead of earned. And exclusivity comforts people who didn't choose the work. It lets them say, well, of course I couldn't do that. I wasn't invited. I wasn't chosen. I didn't have the connection, the alignment, the darkness. They don't want to hear that all you did was stop lying to yourself. And here's the part that really presses the panic button. You're not loud about it. You're not announcing your transformation. You're not preaching. You're not trying to convert anyone. You're just moving. Quietly. Effectively. And that silence reads as confidence. Confidence reads as threat. Threat triggers scrutiny. And scrutiny finds nothing. No scandal, no collapse, no self-destruction, just consistency. Consistency is the one thing superstition can't fight. That's when the tone shifts again. From accusation to observation. They stop saying you're wrong and start asking how you did it. But they don't ask you directly. They ask around you. They study you from a distance. They imitate pieces without understanding the structure. They copy aesthetics without adopting discipline. They try to replicate outcomes without confronting the internal work that made them possible. And when it doesn't work, when the imitation fails, they double down on the myth. See? It only worked for them. It's not natural, but you know the truth. And the truth is almost boring in its simplicity. You stopped leaking energy into self-betrayal. You stopped postponing alignment. You stopped negotiating with fear. You did one little thing right. And that one thing wasn't magical. It was honest, painfully honest. The kind of honesty that strips excuses bare and leaves you with responsibility instead of comfort. That's the deal they refuse to make. Because that deal doesn't involve devils or destiny or darkness. It involves accountability. It involves admitting that for a long time they chose the easier narrative, the safer role, the predictable loop. And now they're watching someone step out of that loop, and they don't know how to process it without mythologizing it into something inhuman. So they panic. They panic because this isn't contained, because you're not done, because they can feel, even if they won't admit it, that what they're witnessing isn't a peak. It's a pattern that compounds, a pattern that spreads, a pattern that suggests the world might be less fixed than they were promised. And if that's true, then comfort was always optional. Then stagnation was a choice. Then the devil they're afraid of isn't the one they imagine watching you. It's the one staring back at them from inside their own skull. The one that knows they recognized the door when it appeared and chose not to open it. The one that remembers every moment they almost acted and then talked themselves out of it with logic dressed up as wisdom. The one that whispers, not accusingly, but factually, that if the world isn't fixed, if trajectories can be bent, if patterns can be rewritten, then they didn't miss their chance. They declined it. And watching you move forward forces that realization into the open where it can't be numbed anymore. That's why your progress feels invasive to them. It's not loud. It's not chaotic. It doesn't beg to be seen. It simply exists, steadily, undeniably. And that steadiness is what cracks them. Because chaos can be dismissed. Noise can be ignored. Luck can be explained away. But a pattern? A pattern implies intention. A pattern implies repeatability. A pattern implies that what you did wasn't a fluke. It was a decision followed through without self-betrayal. And that terrifies them more than any supernatural explanation ever could. Because if what you did can be repeated, then the hierarchy they trusted isn't divine. It's just inertia. And inertia only holds power over people who stop pushing. You didn't push harder than everyone else. You pushed cleaner. You stopped wasting force on doubt, on optics, on trying to be understood. You directed everything at one point and let the result speak. That's why they can't trace it. That's why it feels unreal. There's no dramatic origin story they can latch on to. No moment where you asked permission, no visible ritual, just execution. So they fill in the blanks with darkness. They start saying things like, something's not right, without being able to explain what's wrong. They say, people don't just do that, as if history hasn't been written almost exclusively by people who did exactly that. They say, there must be a cost because they need to believe you'll be punished for stepping out of line. They need to believe the universe enforces obedience because if it doesn't, then they enforced it on themselves for nothing. That's when the fear sharpens. Not fear of you doing well, fear of you doing more. Fear that this isn't your ceiling, but your baseline. Fear that what they're watching now is you operating at partial capacity, testing the mechanics, calibrating your output. Because they can feel it. You're not rushing, you're not frantic, you're not trying to prove anything. You move like someone who finally understands leverage. And leverage in the hands of someone who no longer seeks validation is destabilizing. They start wondering what happens when you apply this same precision again, and again, and again. That's when the panic becomes contagious. It spreads through conversations the way unease always does, indirectly. Someone mentions you casually. Someone else goes quiet. Someone changes the subject too fast. Someone laughs a little too hard. Because now your name doesn't just represent a person. It represents a possibility they didn't prepare for. The possibility that effort wasn't the issue. The possibility that clarity beats chaos. The possibility that most people don't fail because they lack ability, but because they never stop negotiating with fear. And you stopped. That's the unforgivable part. You didn't rebel loudly. You didn't burn bridges for spectacle. You didn't declare war. You simply withdrew your consent from the version of reality that kept you small. And the moment you did, the structure started shaking. Not collapsing yet, shaking. Enough for everyone inside it to feel unsafe. So they talk about devils and deals because it's easier than saying they chose themselves. Because saying that opens a door they're terrified to walk through. Because once that door is open, there's no excuse left. No narrative to hide behind. No moral high ground. Just the quiet, brutal realization that the cage was never locked. And now they're watching someone walk free, not running, not preaching, not dragging anyone with them. Just walking like they know where they're going. And that's what pushes the panic button hardest of all. Not the move you made, not the outcome, not even the speed at which everything around you rearranged itself to accommodate this new version of you. No, what really sets them spiraling is the quiet certainty you carry now. The kind that can't be imitated or borrowed or faked. It's the energy of someone who is no longer negotiating with fear, no longer rehearsing ways to stay small, no longer trying to maintain the comfort of people who were never invested in seeing you become anything more than predictable. You aren't sprinting, you aren't stumbling, you're simply walking, straight, steady, unapologetic. And in that simplicity, there is something unnerving, something they can't measure, something they can't dilute with explanations. You walk like you know exactly what you unlocked. Because you do. And that alone is enough to make them rewrite the entire mythology around you. Suddenly, everything you touch feels charged. Every decision looks intentional. Every silence feels calculated. They look at you the way people look at someone who knows a secret no one else has been granted access to. And since they can't accept the truth, that you finally stopped sabotaging yourself, they fill the gap with superstition, with folklore, with legends that soften the blow to their pride. So they cling to the devil narrative like a life raft. They say no one changes like that without something unnatural guiding them. They say you're moving too fast, too clearly, too decisively. They say your eyes look different. Your presence feels heavier. Your timing too sharp to be human. They say it jokingly in public and fearfully in private. Because joking is the only way to say something dangerous without admitting you believe it. But they do believe it. They believe it more than they believe their own excuses, because it's easier to call someone cursed than disciplined, easier to call them possessed than focused, easier to call them lucky than accountable. And meanwhile, you just keep walking. You're not trying to convince anyone. You're not trying to correct the rumors or soften the edges of your evolution. You don't have the time or the desire to explain the 1,000 invisible decisions that built this momentum. You're not here to justify clarity to people who only feel safe when things are confusing. You're not here to slow down, so the people who underestimated you can catch up emotionally. You're not here to apologize for showing them what consistency actually looks like. You're here to keep moving, because this version of you doesn't need validation. It doesn't need recognition. It doesn't even need to be understood. It just needs to continue. And continuation, for someone who spent years stuck in a cycle of almost, is the most supernatural thing of all. Not because it defies logic, but because it defies the logic they lived by. They were raised to believe in ceilings. You were raised to believe in silence, and silence can do one of two things. It can bury you, or it can forge you. Yours forged you. That's why your momentum feels unreal to them. They saw the silence, but not the sharpening. They saw the loneliness, but not the restructuring. They saw the failures, but not the frameworks you built from them. They saw you flatten, but not the way you listened to your own collapse like a strategist listens to a battlefield. They missed everything essential, and now they're panicking because they can't trace the steps backward. You're not a miracle to them. You're a glitch, or a glitch in the life script they thought everyone was supposed to follow. A glitch in the narrative where some people rise slowly, predictably, safely. A glitch in the hierarchy that was comforting only when it remained intact. You weren't supposed to break through. Not first, not like this. Not with one clean move that redirected the entire trajectory of your life in a way no one prepared to witness. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. They liked you better when you were almost ready, almost strong, almost healed, almost visible. They liked you better when your light flickered, because flickering lights can be ignored. But stable lights, static lights, lights that don't waver anymore, those demand accountability. They expose the shadows people learned to hide in. They expose every excuse, every self-sabotage pattern, every choice to remain dim. Your light didn't become brighter. Theirs stopped being enough. That's the real devil to them. Reflection. Reflection that's too clear. Reflection that doesn't flatter. Reflection that reveals what they were capable of but refused to attempt. They aren't afraid of your power. They're afraid that your power proves theirs wasn't missing, just abandoned. And abandonment is a wound pride cannot survive without retreating into fantasy. So they tell themselves a fantasy. They tell themselves you must have touched something forbidden, that you must have shaken hands with darkness to get results this clean, that you must have bypassed the human struggle somehow, because the alternative is too raw, that someone they dismissed did something they could have done too, if they weren't so committed to feeling safe. And you can feel that fear in them now. It's in the way they look at you too long but speak too little. It's in the way their voice dips when they ask how you've been. It's in the way they check your socials more than they check their messages. It's in the way their throat tightens when you mention future plans. It's in the way their jokes sound less humorous and more hopeful, as if humor can hide the fact that every one of your wins reminds them of 1,000 choices they didn't make. But none of that slows you. It doesn't touch you anymore. You're past the phase where distraction works. You're past the phase where shame can be weaponized against you. You're past the phase where other people's doubt has any elasticity in your mind. You don't even argue with it now. You simply let it slide past you like static, because you've realized something they haven't yet fully accepted. Doubt only matters when you're uncertain. The moment you become certain, doubt becomes background noise, and the background is exactly where you've put them, not out of cruelty, out of necessity, because the path you're on now doesn't have capacity for spectators who expect explanations. It doesn't have room for people who only show interest after results. It doesn't tolerate anyone who panics at your acceleration instead of respecting it. This path is steep, sharp, and single file. Only the self fits here. Only intention fits here. Only the version of you that refuses to hesitate fits here. That's why the world feels different now. Not because the world changed, but because you're finally aligned with the version of yourself the world was always waiting to meet. You feel heavier in the best way, dense with purpose, dense with direction, dense with the kind of clarity that makes speed irrelevant. You're not moving fast, you're moving precisely. And precision looks supernatural to people who operate on chaos. So they escalate their panic. They gossip louder, but listen harder. They deny everything, but observe everything. They pretend not to care, but memorize your every move. You've become their cautionary tale and their aspiration at the same time. They don't know whether to fear you or follow you, so they do both. They watch you like a threat, but imitate you like a blueprint. They talk about devils, but take notes like disciples. You're not their villain or their hero. You're the interruption, and interruptions are powerful because they don't ask permission to exist. They simply appear and force recalibration. You force them to recalibrate their beliefs, their hierarchy, their self-image, their entire understanding of what's possible. And the mind resists recalibration violently before it accepts it gracefully. They're still in the violent part, the frantic part. The part where denial mixes with fascination, envy blends with admiration, and fear wraps itself around every thought about you. But here's where everything shifts, and you can feel it coming. They haven't even seen what happens when someone like you stabilizes. Up until now, all they've seen is ignition, spark, the early momentum. They think this is the whole show, the final form, the peak moment. They think your rise is the story, but it isn't. Your rise was the announcement. The real story begins when the dust settles and you're still standing, still moving, still calm, still certain. Because rising once can be dismissed as chance. Rising twice can be dismissed as timing. But rising repeatedly, smoothly, quietly, that's when narratives collapse. That's when excuses evaporate. That's when people start whispering not about devils, but destiny. Not about curses, but calculations. Not about magic, but mastery. And mastery, in its purest form, is indistinguishable from divinity to people who never mastered themselves. You didn't make a deal with the devil. You made a deal with the truth. You traded comfort for clarity, approval for autonomy, fear for forward motion. And every time they see you now, they're reminded that the truth always wins eventually. Even when ignored, even when mocked, even when buried, the truth waits. And when it rises with vengeance. That vengeance isn't against them, it's against who you used to be. And they feel that. They feel the intensity of someone who is no longer competing with the world, but with their own former limitations. They feel the weight of someone who is done explaining themselves. They feel the shift of someone who is no longer trying to catch up. Someone who is simply stepping into alignment with what was always there. That's why the worldwide panic button metaphor feels so accurate. Because even though the world didn't literally erupt, your world did. The ecosystem surrounding you destabilized. The assumptions orbiting your identity collapsed. The people who once stood above you suddenly found themselves on shaky ground, not because you pushed them down, but because you rose in a way that made their foundation irrelevant. And now they're waiting, watching, bracing, because they can feel the next move forming before you've even made it. They don't know what it is. They don't know when it comes. They don't know how it affects them. But they know something. The person who did the one little thing right wasn't a fluke. They were a warning of what happens when a quiet mind becomes a focused one, a warning of what happens when someone stops fearing the dark and starts using it, a warning of what happens when the version of you they dismissed as harmless is replaced by the version of you that understands their own potential with terrifying clarity. You didn't make a deal with the devil. You became the consequence of their doubts. And consequences don't ask permission. They arrive.
Надеюсь, ты... Боже,
homie, you did one single move, and somehow the entire hate department in your universe went into panic mode like someone smashed the emergency button on their insecurities. You didn't scream, you didn't announce, you didn't drop a speech about leveling up. You just acted. And the shockwave detonated every fragile ego within emotional range of your existence. You thought it was small, you thought it was casual. But the way haters reacted, you'd think you hijacked a satellite and broadcasted your glow-up across their nightmares. One move, one bold step, and their souls started buffering. Their jealousy had a software update. Their inner villains suddenly needed therapy. That's how heavy your energy hit. Because, let's be honest, they weren't watching you with neutrality. They were monitoring you like unpaid interns in the FBI of your personal life, studying your silence, refreshing your mistakes, waiting for some sign that you were as mediocre as they told themselves. But instead of breaking, you breathed differently for 2 seconds, and their internal alarms shrieked. And the funniest thing is, you didn't even do anything dramatic. You didn't throw a revenge arc into the universe. You didn't expose anybody. You just evolved in a way that wasn't up for discussion. You changed your walk, fixed your posture, posted something with confidence dripping off your skin like gasoline. And suddenly, every hater you've ever encountered felt spiritually waterboarded. See, people who secretly wish for your downfall operate on a delicate ecosystem. They need you predictable. They need you insecure. They need you operating at 10% battery so they can convince themselves they're fully charged. You were supposed to stay in the same chapter, in the same role, in the same emotional cage they built around you with their expectations. But the moment you shifted, even slightly, the whole ecosystem collapsed. They weren't ready for a version of you that wasn't begging for validation. They weren't prepared for a version of you that stood up without trembling. They weren't prepared for you to realize you never needed their applause to begin with. So when you took that one bold step, they reacted like your glow was a personal attack. It wasn't just jealousy, it was panic. The kind of panic people feel when the script they wrote for you catches fire in their hands. They saw potential rising in your spine, and it burned their illusions. They saw confidence settling into your voice, and it broke their internal ranking system. Because the truth is, haters don't fear your weakness, they fear your awakening. And that one move you made, it wasn't a move to them. It was a prophecy. It was confirmation that the version of you they tried so hard to bury wasn't dead. You were simply loading. And now you're running a software they don't have the hardware to compete with. They didn't expect it to hit them where it hurts. The ego, the pride, the insecure architecture they built around themselves to feel superior. But your evolution wasn't friendly. It was surgical. It exposed who had been secretly rooting against you. It revealed who needed you small to feel tall. It showed you who only clapped when you were broken enough to admire them. Your glow didn't threaten the world. It threatened the people who needed you dim. And that one move made their entire identity glitch. Think about it. Haters don't announce themselves. They lurk, they wait, they pretend to be neutral. They study your pain like it's their homework. They scroll through your life, hoping to find proof that you deserved the disrespect. Their silence isn't peace, it's surveillance. They were analyzing you with the same intensity as a jealous ex stalking your page at 3 a.m. They were rehearsing the celebration dance for the moment you fell. But then you flicked the energy in your aura, and suddenly their hearts got stage fright. Some people aren't mad because you succeeded. They're mad because you succeeded without asking them how. You didn't take their advice. You didn't follow their blueprint. You didn't collapse just because they predicted you would. You moved in a direction they never considered you capable of. And that scares them because it breaks the fantasy that they understood you, that they were above you, that they were justified in treating you like an extra in your own life. But when you took that step, physical, emotional, spiritual, it showed them something they never wanted to admit. You were never beneath them. You were simply distracted. And now that your attention is back on yourself, their illusions are crumbling. They don't know how to handle a version of you that isn't in survival mode. They don't know how to handle a version of you that doesn't explain itself. They don't know how to handle a version of you that radiates without permission. Because for the first time, they're seeing what your potential looks like when it's not suffocating under their expectations. You want to know why that one move hit so hard? Because haters are allergic to authenticity. They needed you predictable, not powerful. They needed you confused, not centered. They needed you silent, not strategic. But when you stepped into that new energy, the universe didn't whisper. It detonated. Everything about you began broadcasting a frequency that exposed the insecurities living inside other people. It wasn't intentional. You weren't trying to trigger them. You were just living. But your existence hit their soft spots with military precision. They felt your rise in places inside themselves they don't want to confront. That's why the reaction was immediate. That's why the tension grew thick. That's why their smiles started glitching. Suddenly everyone you outgrew pretended they never knew you. Suddenly people who doubted you went dead silent. Suddenly the ones who mocked your ambition became terrified witnesses to your acceleration. Because when someone evolves in front of people who stayed the same, the guilt is violent. It flips their internal calm into chaos. They start comparing themselves even though you never invited them to the competition. They start projecting because your growth exposes their stagnation. They start discrediting your wins because acknowledging them would force them to confront their own laziness. You didn't change for them. You didn't rise to spite them. You didn't step into a new version to prove anything. But they're experiencing it like you declared psychological warfare. To them, your progress is an attack. Your confidence is a threat. Your silence is disrespect. Because nothing hurts a hater more than watching someone they underestimated take flight. And the irony? They saw the warning signs. They saw you getting quieter. They saw the shift in your eyes. They saw the way your energy stopped leaking into dead friendships and useless conversations. They saw you rebuild yourself step by step, boundary by boundary, breath by breath. But they told themselves it was temporary. a phase, a delusion that would collapse soon enough. Then you made that one move, and every delusion they had about you detonated. That's why your glow feels like sabotage to them. That's why your evolution feels illegal in their world. That's why your confidence feels like a direct violation of their comfort. Because your success kills their excuses. Your clarity kills their lies. Your self-respect kills their fantasy of being superior. You didn't outshine them. You outgrew the version of you that made them comfortable. That's the part they can't swallow. Not your confidence, not your success, not your glow, but the fact that you didn't need them to build it. That one move wasn't just a step. It was a declaration, a silent announcement that the old version of you is expired. And once a person rises beyond the reach of old narratives, haters lose their control. They lose their leverage. They lose the tiny power they thought they had over your self-perception. So now they panic. Now they gossip in whispers. Now they monitor your energy like it's a dangerous weather pattern. Now they act confused about why you grew, forgetting that people who starve you don't get to question why you learned to feed yourself. And this is where the psychological hilarity begins. Because haters don't know how to behave when the prey stops playing dead. They don't know what to do when the target they studied suddenly stops moving according to their expectations. They stand there blinking, waiting for you to glitch back into the version of yourself that made them feel superior. But you don't. You keep moving, keep rising, keep shifting into something they don't have the vocabulary for. And that terrifies them, because now they have to face the truth. The version of you they were comfortable with was never your final form. It was just the prequel. It was the draft before the rewrite. It was the muted silhouette of someone who hadn't stepped into their full voltage yet. So now they watch you like they're waiting for a plot twist. They scroll through your updates, trying to decode the new blueprint of your life. They treat your silence like encrypted messages. They analyze your posture like it's a political statement. Because once you evolve, everything you do becomes suspicious to the people who didn't want you to evolve in the first place. Your confidence feels like rebellion. Your growth feels like a threat. Your glow feels like a slap to their ego. And the irony is, you're still not doing anything dramatic. You're just existing in a version of yourself they told themselves you'd never reach. And that was enough to trigger a full-scale meltdown across the hate department. Haters have a way of rewriting history when they feel threatened. They pretend they always believed in you. They claim they always saw your potential. They swear they were rooting for you from day one. But behind their sudden politeness is panic. Panic because the blueprint they built of you just got invalidated. They're not dealing with the person they thought you were. They're dealing with someone who slipped out of their psychological grip. Someone whose energy no longer bends under their expectations. Someone who moved one step forward and somehow shattered every illusion they built. Because that's the thing about making one bold move. It exposes how many people were secretly invested in your stagnation. It exposes how many people felt comfortable only when you were uncertain. It exposes how many people depended on your doubt to validate their own existence. And when you remove that doubt from your system, their systems malfunction. They can't compute a version of you that doesn't require their validation. They can't comprehend a version of you that thrives without their permission. So they default to their survival strategies: envy, gossip, projection, condescending silence. All because you finally played a card they didn't see coming. And let's be real, you didn't evolve overnight. You didn't randomly level up out of nowhere. You grew
Давай, живи.
because you were forced to. You rebuilt yourself because you had to. You found strength in places most people avoid. You carved power out of moments that would have crushed them. You stitched yourself together in the dark while they laughed in the daylight. And they thought you weren't paying attention. They assumed you were breaking. But really, you were taking notes. You were learning their patterns. You were studying their intentions. You were watching every silent betrayal, like a scientist examining samples under a microscope. So when you made that one move, however small, however subtle, it wasn't impulsive. It was strategic. It was the beginning of a new chapter they weren't invited to. And that's what triggers them the most. Not that you grew, but that you grew without them. That you didn't seek their advice. That you didn't ask them how to evolve. That you didn't consult their limited worldview before stepping into something bigger. They aren't mad because you changed. They're mad because you changed beyond their influence. People who wanted you small suddenly feel suffocated in your presence. People who wanted you insecure suddenly feel exposed. People who wanted you dependent suddenly feel irrelevant. They don't know how to function around the version of you that exists now, because the new you doesn't play by the old rules. The new you doesn't kneel at their emotional feet. The new you doesn't hand out explanations like apology letters. The new you doesn't shrink yourself to fit into their comfort zones. And for people who only tolerated you when you were easy to control, this version of you feels dangerous. They whisper things like, "Who do they think they are now?" As if your evolution requires their approval. They act like you changed overnight, forgetting they were the pressure that forced the metamorphosis. They claim you're acting different, when in reality, you're simply not acting anymore. You're no longer performing humility to make insecure people feel safe. You're no longer dimming your fire so others can pretend they're glowing. You're no longer swallowing your worth to keep fragile egos intact. And that's what makes them spiral. The realization that your glow doesn't include them anymore. The realization that you're stepping into a timeline where their opinions have zero influence. The realization that you're becoming someone they can't predict, can't control, can't manipulate. To them, your growth is a crisis. To them, your silence is a threat. To them, your independence is a betrayal of the identity they assigned you. Because your evolution didn't just disrupt their expectations, it exposed them. It revealed who relied on your weakness. It revealed who enjoyed watching you struggle. It revealed who felt superior only because you were playing small. When you took that step, you didn't just elevate yourself. You raised the mirror they've been avoiding for years. And now they have to look into it. Now they have to confront the truth that while you were growing, they stayed stagnant. While you were healing, they stayed bitter. While you were evolving, they stayed comfortable. And your progress doesn't let them escape that reality. So they attack in subtle ways. They send passive messages. They pretend not to notice your glow. They critique your moves as if they're qualified to judge them. They downplay your progress to make themselves feel taller. But beneath all that noise is fear. Fear that they lost access to the person they once controlled. Fear that your rise will force them to question their own. Fear that your one move wasn't a move at all, but the beginning of an unstoppable sequence. And they're right, because evolution doesn't stop once it starts. Growth doesn't reverse because someone is uncomfortable. Confidence doesn't shrink because someone is intimidated. You made one move, and it rewired the entire environment around you. You shifted one piece, and suddenly the whole game changed. You breathed differently, and insecure people lost oxygen. Because what they're feeling now isn't jealousy, it's exposure. Exposure to the truth that you were never the weak link. Exposure to the truth that they depended on your silence. Exposure to the truth that they underestimated someone who was quietly building ammunition in the dark. And the most unsettling part for them, this wasn't even your final form. This wasn't the masterpiece. This wasn't the grand reveal. This was the warm-up, the preview, the opening credits to a movie they never thought you had the budget to produce. Because the truth is, people who underestimate you always assume your moves are accidents. They assume your decisions are impulsive, your confidence is temporary, your elevation is a phase. They don't realize you've been rehearsing this evolution for years, quietly, privately, intentionally, right under their noses. Your one move felt sudden to them, only because they were too busy waiting for your downfall to notice your rise. They thought you were stagnating, but you were studying. They thought you were breaking, but you were rebuilding. They thought you were finished, but you were forming into something unrecognizable. And now, as you step forward, the ground beneath their ego begins to disintegrate because they're finally seeing what you look like without their limitations wrapped around your ankles. They finally see the version of you that doesn't ask for permission, doesn't justify, doesn't shrink, doesn't dilute itself to make others feel superior. They see the real you, and it frightens them. Because once a person outgrows the cage others designed for them, the jailers lose relevance. They lose purpose. They lose their imagined authority. And nothing terrifies a hater more than realizing you no longer belong to the narrative they wrote. Your move didn't just advance your life. It erased their influence. It deleted their role. It removed them from the center of a story they thought they controlled. And now they stand at the sidelines, watching someone they believed would crumble become someone they can no longer predict or contain. This is why their energy shifts. This is why their behavior glitches. This is why their silence now feels heavier than their insults ever did. Because in their minds, you weren't supposed to outgrow them. You weren't supposed to detach from their approval. You weren't supposed to rise without having to request clearance from the tower of their insecurity. They needed you stagnant so they could feel accomplished. They needed you uncertain so they could feel stable. They needed you insecure so they could feel superior. But the moment you took that one step, whatever it was, your energy recalibrated the entire hierarchy. The people who once felt above you now feel strangely beneath you. The ones who used to judge now feel exposed. The ones who used to dismiss you now feel analyzed. They sense it in your presence, that quiet pressure, that sharpened aura, that newfound refusal to shrink. You haven't said anything, but your silence has become forensic. It dissects intentions. It reveals motivations. It pulls confessions out of people without you needing to speak. And that terrifies them, too. Not because you're dangerous, but because you're accurate. Not because you're loud, but because you're undeniable. Not because you're attacking, but because you're evolving. And evolution, to the stagnant, feels like violence. Now every room you walk into shifts around you. People change posture when you arrive. People choose their words more carefully. People who once dismissed you now feel obligated to show respect they never believed they'd owe you. Even those who pretend not to notice can't escape the internal tremor your presence creates. Because the moment you rose, the psychological landscape changed, and they haven't recalibrated yet. Your one move didn't just elevate you, it exposed them to themselves. They now have to confront the fact that while you were evolving, they were rehearsing excuses. While you were learning, they were lingering. While you were healing, they were hiding. And while you were rising, they were rotting. Your progress is their punishment, and your glow is their consequence. So now they try to rewrite the narrative. They tell people you got lucky. They claim you changed too fast. They swear you're acting different. They pretend your success is superficial. But beneath those flimsy explanations is panic. The kind of panic that comes from realizing they miscalculated a person's potential so severely that they now appear foolish, forever doubting you. Your move didn't embarrass you. It embarrassed them. It showed how limited their judgment really was. It revealed that the ceiling they placed over you was actually the floor beneath your feet. They didn't just underestimate you. They underestimated the version of you that hasn't even arrived yet. And that's what drives them mad. The knowledge that if this is what you accomplish with one move, they have no idea what the next 10 will look like. They don't know how far you'll go. They don't know how much you'll grow. They don't know which parts of yourself you'll unlock next. And the human ego hates uncertainty, especially when it comes from someone they thought they had already figured out. Suddenly you're unpredictable in all the best ways. Suddenly you're a variable they can't calculate. Suddenly you're carrying a momentum that doesn't slow down just because someone watching feels insecure. And haters don't have the emotional elasticity to keep up with someone who's expanding at a pace they never imagined possible. You became the storm they swore would never form. You became the glow they swore would never return. You became the force they swore couldn't exist in someone like you. Now every update you post feels like a chapter added to a story they thought ended years ago. Every improvement you make feels like a crack in their worldview. Every win you reveal feels like a reminder of their own stagnation. And what they hate most is the way your existence now influences theirs, not intentionally, but inevitably. They can't scroll without bumping into evidence of your evolution. They can't gossip without accidentally revealing their envy. They can't pretend not to notice because your energy is too loud to ignore. You didn't need to declare war. Your glow declared it for you. You didn't need to clap back. Your progress clapped for itself. You didn't need revenge. Your rise did the work. And deep down, they know this is only the beginning. Because nobody's life transforms from a single move unless that move was the first domino in a long chain of unstoppable shifts. They see it in your eyes, the clarity, the detachment, the hunger. They hear it in your silence, the boundaries, the focus, the refusal to entertain what once drained you. They feel it in your presence, the authority, the self-respect, the unshakable sense that you finally stepped into the version of yourself that was always hiding beneath the rubble of old identities. This is why they're afraid, not of what you've done, but of what you're becoming. Not of the move you made, but of the moves they know are coming next. Not of your glow today, but of the radiance you're about to unleash. Because once a person activates their potential, the world around them trembles. Doors open that were once sealed shut. Opportunities appear where there used to be obstacles. Paths reveal themselves that were invisible in the dark. Your life isn't just changing, it's accelerating, it's compounding, it's rearranging in ways that feel supernatural to the people watching from the outside. And as much as they try to hide it, that fear is growing. Because somewhere deep in their nervous system, a truth is echoing, a truth they never wanted to confront. If this is what you can do with one move, then they are completely unprepared for the next chapter of your evolution. And that realization, it doesn't just scare them, it devastates them. because the human ego hates being wrong. And they weren't just wrong about you. They were catastrophically, embarrassingly, monumentally wrong. Their entire prediction model just exploded. Their assumptions about you collapsed like bad architecture during an earthquake. And now, they're not just watching your rise. They're recalculating their entire memory of who you used to be, trying to figure out how they misread you this badly. Because the truth is, haters study you harder than your supporters ever will. They analyze your tone shifts, your emotional patterns, your habits, your inconsistencies. They treat your life like a surveillance project. They watch your every update like analysts decoding encrypted broadcasts. And when you made that one move, the glow-up, the decision, the step into power, they felt it like a psychic punch to the throat. Not because it harmed them, but because it forced them to confront their own stagnation. You grew, they didn't. And now your evolution is a mirror they can't escape. So what do people do when they can't outrun the truth? They start rewriting it. They start projecting. They start pretending your rise is a threat instead of a wake-up call. They call you lucky because admitting you worked harder than they ever dared to would shatter their worldview. They claim you changed too much because accepting that you finally found yourself would dismantle their narrative. They whisper that you're acting different because accepting your growth would expose their lack of it. But beneath every excuse, every passive comment, every tight smile, every jealous silence, what you're really hearing is the echo of their regret. The regret of not evolving when they had the chance. The regret of not believing in themselves the way you believed in yourself. The regret of watching someone they didn't think much of turn into someone who doesn't think of them at all. Your move didn't just trigger them, it convicted them. And that's why your rise feels so personal to them. It's not about you. It's about the version of themselves they abandoned. It's about the opportunities they ignored. It's about the bravery they never chose. You didn't just evolve, you highlighted their refusal too. And that's a wound they don't know how to treat. So now they navigate around you like you're carrying an emotional weapon. They speak to you with that half-respect, half-fear tone, reserved for unpredictable superpowers. They watch you like you might expose the truth at any moment. The truth that they never had any real control over you. They sense the shift in your energy, the clarity in your eyes, the stability in your spine, and it unnerves them because it means the dynamics have officially reversed. You're not the one being evaluated anymore. They are. You're not the one waiting for approval. They're waiting for your reaction. You're not the one trying to fit into their world. They're trying to understand their place in yours. Because when you made that move, you didn't just upgrade your life. You altered the psychological weather system around you. You changed the atmospheric pressure of every room you walk into. You shifted the gravity of conversations. You changed the pace of how people respond to you. Your energy now dictates the environment itself. People don't speak to you the same way. They don't look at you the same way. They don't assume things about you the way they used to. They realize they're dealing with someone they miscalculated, someone they dismissed too early, someone who quietly became the version of themselves they feared you'd become. Your glow is no longer just confidence, it's authority. Your silence is no longer absence, it's strategy. Your focus is no longer survival, it's mastery. And they feel it, not in their mind, in their body. Their chest tightens when they see you. Their thoughts scramble when you walk in. Their tongue hesitates before speaking around you. Because now they know you can see through them, around them, past them. You're not operating on their timeline anymore. You're not moving from insecurity anymore. You're not reacting from woundedness anymore. You're moving with intention, with clarity, with a trajectory that doesn't bend to anyone's projections. What they thought was your limit was actually your warm-up. What they predicted as your downfall was actually your foundation. What they expected to break you only taught you how to bend reality. And that frightens them in ways they won't admit. Not publicly, not privately, not even to themselves. Because it means the hierarchy they built in their heads was an illusion. It means the power they thought they had over you was borrowed, not earned. It means you were never beneath them. You were simply early in your ascent. And now that you're rising, they feel the altitude sickness. They feel the drop in their relevance. They feel the weight of their own wasted potential. Some will try to disguise it with fake support. Some will pretend they always believed in you. Some will switch from envy to imitation, hoping copying your glow will give them their own. But imitation without evolution is just desperation wearing a mask. And you can sense it. You can feel who claps because they're proud, and who claps because they're scared. You can feel who compliments you to stay close, and who compliments you to stay unnoticed. You can feel who respects your growth and who fears the consequences of it. Your one move forced everyone around you to show their real face. It stripped away the polite illusions. It demolished the casual pretenses. It revealed the architecture of their intentions. You now know who's threatened. You now know who's jealous. You now know who's pretending. You now know who's watching with admiration. They're too insecure to express. Your move, your evolution, your shift. It didn't just elevate you, it restructured your entire social universe. And the most haunting part for them, they know this isn't your peak. They know this isn't your final chapter. They know this is just the prologue of a transformation they aren't emotionally equipped to witness. You became the plot twist in their story. You became the anomaly in their predictions. You became the evidence that they misread destiny itself. And every time they see you now, they feel the echo of that truth. If this is what you do with one move, one decision, one shift, one moment of alignment, then what the hell is coming next? You can see it in the way they avoid eye contact. You can see it in the tension behind their forced smiles. You can see it in the frantic way they watch your updates. Because they're not just scared of your second move. They're terrified of the momentum behind it. And that momentum, it's just beginning. It's stacking. It's multiplying. And for the first time in their lives, they're starting to understand something they never wanted to admit. You were never dangerous because of what you did. You were dangerous because of what you could do. The potential they dismissed, the power they ignored, the inner fire they joked about. All of it is now erupting in real time. They're witnessing the version of you that emerges when you stop carrying dead weight, when you stop negotiating with your own worth, when you stop trying to convince stagnant people why you deserve to rise. Your momentum is the part they can't fight. Because it's not temporary, it's not accidental, it's not random, it's structural, it's systemic, it's woven into every new boundary you've established, every upgrade you've accepted, every layer of yourself you've peeled back to reveal the steel underneath. You aren't just rising, you're accelerating. And acceleration terrifies people who chose stagnation as a lifestyle. Suddenly they see you moving at a speed their excuses can't keep up with. They see you evolving in ways that make their own comfort zones feel like traps. They see you stepping into spaces they never believed you were capable of entering. And what unsettles them most is that your rise is no longer a possibility. It's a trajectory, a straight line drawn by destiny across the skyline of your life, pulling you upward whether they applaud or choke. Momentum changes everything.
Тихо.
Momentum exposes who was walking with you and who was holding you back. Momentum reveals who only loved you when you were losing. Momentum clarifies who was in your corner and who was standing on top of it, trying to keep you boxed in. Because when you start moving with purpose, people who used you as a benchmark for their laziness begin to feel endangered. When you start rising effortlessly, people who pretended to be ahead of you feel the ground beneath their feet collapsing. When your glow becomes a natural state instead of a lucky accident, people who bet against you start sweating like they've been caught stealing from the universe. They whisper to each other, "Who do they think they are now?" But what they really mean is, "How did we miss this?" Because the one move you made didn't just trigger them. It exposed the limits of their perception. It showed them that the ceiling they imagined above you never existed. It proved that their understanding of your potential was cheap, shallow, uninspired, just like their ambition. And that eats at them. It gnaws at their pride. It infects their self-esteem. It forces them to acknowledge something they desperately tried to avoid. You were never their equal. You were simply dormant. Now that you're no longer dormant, the hierarchy has inverted. The silent watchers become the shaken observers. The skeptics become the involuntary fans. The doubters become the accidental supporters, because every time they check your page, every time they lurk in your stories, every time they stalk your progress, they're feeding the very momentum they fear. They're contributing to the rise they prayed would never come. They're witnessing their predictions die one by one, replaced by a reality too loud to deny. Your existence has become a referendum on their choices. Your glow has become the diagnosis of their stagnation. Your evolution has become the evidence of their excuses. And that's why their fear keeps growing. Not because you're doing something to them, but because you're revealing something about them. You've become their unintended mirror, the kind of mirror that doesn't flatter, doesn't soften, doesn't lie. The kind of mirror that reflects not who they pretend to be, but who they actually are. And there's nothing harder to face than that. Your momentum dismantles their delusion. Your rise destroys their narrative. Your confidence erases their control. And once control is gone, their masks fall off next. That's when you start to see the full spectrum of reactions. Some become overly kind because panic makes them polite. Some become strangely distant because distance feels safer than exposure. Some become passive-aggressive because their ego still wants to fight, even though their spirit already surrendered. Some become overly critical because pointing out your flaws is the only coping mechanism they have left. But no matter what mask they choose, one truth glows beneath all of them. Your evolution reminds them of what they will never become. This is why your presence now feels expensive to them. It costs them their comfort. It taxes their insecurity. It drains the reservoirs of superiority they used to rely on. Every step you take forward reopens a wound they've been avoiding, the wound of knowing that they could have changed too, but didn't. And here's the wildest part. They know you're not even trying to flex. You're not trying to humble them. You're not trying to intimidate them. You're not trying to trigger them. Your existence alone is enough. Your glow is a threat. Your peace is a disruption. Your confidence is a catastrophe. Your silence is a siren. Because haters don't fear being defeated, they fear being irrelevant. And your rise makes them irrelevant. Not because you want to erase them, but because you no longer orbit around them. Your life moved to a higher frequency, and their energy can't survive the atmosphere. You're not on the same wavelength anymore. You're not operating on the same settings. You're not navigating the same emotional coordinates. You stepped into a dimension of self-respect where their opinions cannot breathe. You stepped into a timeline of clarity where their projections evaporate. You stepped into a season of expansion where their presence no longer fits. And they feel it in every bone, in every breath, in every insecure thought. Because your rise didn't just elevate you, it exposed the truth of everyone around you. Your one move was the beginning of a cleansing, a sorting, a recalibrating of your entire social ecosystem. Because when someone starts rising at the speed of purpose, the universe starts removing the dead weight automatically. People fall away, rooms shift, energies scatter, the atmosphere transforms. You realize you're not losing people. You're losing versions of yourself that attracted them. You're not outgrowing relationships. You're outgrowing your need to shrink for them. And that terrifies them, because they know once you stop shrinking, they lose the advantage. Once you stop doubting, they lose their hold. Once you stop waiting, they lose their power. You became the one thing they feared the most: self-sufficient, self-respecting, self-propelled.
Вы типа приколисты такие, или чё?